And thank you again all for being here. My name is Peggy Bennett. I represent 23A. I live in Albert Lea and much of that middle southern Minnesota area. I am a teacher of 33 years, retired in 2015. I taught mostly first grade. Literacy is my love, because first grade is where you really dig into that. That's where you give the kids their foundation and their beginnings. And I also taught special education. First of all, I have to say it is my pleasure to be here with so many colleagues and our education team between the Senate and the House. We have an awesome team of teachers, administrators, school board members, parents on our education team who have helped formulate this reading reset plan. And we all know how important literacy is. Only half of Minnesota students can read at grade level. And I'm going to say that again, half. That's a tragedy. We have no real science-based reading plan in sight, which is basically what told us we need to have action here. And what we have, this is a crisis. It's very similar to a natural disaster, a tornado or a fire, and it needs to be addressed immediately. This crisis covers our whole geographic state. And it involves our children, our most precious asset. Our kids deserve better. And as I said, only half of students in Minnesota can read at grade level. And some other statistics, 48% of third graders read at grade level, 32% of fourth graders, and 30% of eighth graders. 2/3 of our eighth graders can't read at grade level. This is a crisis. This is not the fault of teachers. It's not the fault of students or parents or even the schools. They've been lied to. And I don't use that word lightly. I always taught my first graders, you don't accuse somebody of lying lightly. But they have been lied to. Some of the most largest and popular curriculum companies have ignored decades of science-based reading, called the science of reading, and they've misled teachers and schools and told them that whole language or balanced literacy is research-based. It's not. We now have a catastrophic literary crisis in our state, and we need to deal with it like the crisis that it is. This is huge. It's generational. It has incredible implications for our state, both now and in the future, and especially incredible implications for our children, and they're precious. When children learn how to read, they're empowered to read to learn. Think of what literacy failure does to kids and to schools. It drives up the special education population. We know we're dealing with that and the costs of that right now. It widens the achievement gap, and Minnesota is the worst in the nation. It feeds into crime and prison. It causes behavior problems in schools. And I dealt with that with my first graders. When they're frustrated, when they can't read, they know that. And it causes problems. Here's our plan of action. We have a Republican team, which I talked about, made up of teachers, parents, school board members, administrators, and so on, who are addressing this plan immediately and using a science-based approach. It's called the science of reading, which we'll get into further in a little bit. This plan would create a special revenue account, not unlike a disaster relief fund for schools, where they can apply to cover the costs of aligning their curriculum to the instructional practices based on the science of reading. There's three main components of this reset fund. The first one is funding for schools to replace their ineffective curriculum. The second one is funding for teacher training and staff development in the science of reading. And the third is funding for tutoring, so the parents and families of students who have been identified as struggling readers can get help based on the science of reading. In addition, it requires the Professional Educator Licensing and Standards Board to audit our teacher prep programs to make sure that they're teaching what the current statute says, that scientifically based reading instruction is taught to our teachers. Secondly, it directs the Minnesota Department of Education to develop and maintain a list of verified curriculum, again, that's based on the science of reading. So I say enough is enough. It's time to take a bold stance and get to remediating our children, get them caught up on their reading skills, and put strong science of reading-based curriculum in our schools with trained teachers who know how to use it. We have excellent teachers in this state. We have awesome students in this state and parents, and we can do this.